Good evening, Chicago. Welcome on in to another episode of Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. Tons to go through tonight. The Cubs have had themselves an outstanding first month of the season, and they're getting their ace back on the hill tonight. How much of this is real? How much of this can we expect to see going forward? What are we liking about the Cubs so far this season? We've spent a ton of time the last month plus, of course, talking about the Bears and the NFL draft. We've got another draft that we'll be able to start laying some groundwork for here tonight. The NHL Draft lottery is tomorrow night, and the Blakchakws have a chance to get the number one overall pick for the second year in a row. What would that look like over at the Madhouse on Madison? Might Connor Bedard be getting some high-end help soon? We'll talk about that. And then the NFL schedule will be released later this week. We'll have some fun making some predictions and see what might be going on for the Bears this fall. All that plus more. Buckle it on up on Chi-Town Weekly. Let's go. And hello and good evening, everyone. Once again, I am your host, Adam Karnick. Glad so much that you are here as we are going to be getting ready. Lots to be going through here tonight. Going to be talking some baseball. Going to be talking some hockey draft. Going to be talking NFL, lots to be getting through, lots of fun to be had, lots to be going through. We're just going to be having ourselves a good time here on the show tonight. But of course, none of this would be possible if it weren't for our sponsors. So we do want to give them some love right out of the gate here, starting, of course, with our friends over at Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, the single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Check them out at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
And of course, this show would not be possible without the overarching platform of IE Sports Radio, celebrating its 10th anniversary next week. We are going to have some fun with that when the time rolls around. But IE Sports Radio, of course, has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Be sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to keep up with the latest in sports and with our shows. Also, check out our daily updated website, iesportsradio.com, for sports news, the IE Sports Radio blog, our Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month, pages dedicated to each podcast, our IE Sports Radio community forum, and stop by the shop to check out the merchandise. Thank you for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And if you are listening live here on Spreaker.com here on this Monday evening, hop on into the chat room. Good evening to Taryn and Jen and Larry, everybody in there. Good evening, one and all. We're going to try our best to have an awesome show. We can interact and have some fun back and forth that way. Or if you find yourself listening later on in the week as a podcast, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Gio7, or just here on Spreaker, wherever you may be, thank you for making this show part of your sports week. I really do appreciate that. Without any further ado, let's dive on in, shall we? The Cubs are taking on the Padres tonight. They are currently in the bottom of the second, no score. Good pitching matchup tonight. Hugh Darvish versus Justin Steele. The ace is finally back for the Cubs after getting pulled after just 4+ innings on opening night with a hamstring pull. Justin Steele is back at work. And so far on the night, 2 innings, 2 strikeouts, 1 hit, 1 walk, 38 pitches so far, but zeros on the scoreboard. That's the most important statistic there for Steele, as I'm sure he is going to be on a very limited pitch count. He's already thrown 38 pitches to get through 2 innings. If he makes it 5 innings tonight, that'll be sensational. I'm sure the pitch count is somewhere in that 75 to 80 pitch range for him, so I'm sure it's not going to be super far. You know, if he winds up even qualifying for the win, that will be a terrific accomplishment for him. And on the other side, Hugh Darvish throwing for the Padres. Cubs got him good back in San Diego about a month ago. So far, Darvish looking more like himself a little bit right now. He's retired. I believe he's retired the first 5. No, he has given up a hit. Nico Horner led things off. For the Cubs tonight with a hit. But other than that, it has been the next 5 men all down for Darvish. So, but this is becoming, if Steele is able to return to form. It was really interesting driving into work this morning, listening in and listening to some of the discussion about it. Could you make the argument that Justin Steele might not be the ace for the Cubs anymore, that he may have relinquished that role while he was gone? And it wasn't because Steele himself might be just not the pitcher that he was. The Cubs' starting rotation right now is just so good overall. As a starting rotation, they are solid right now. You've got Jamison Tyone came back from injury in his 4 starts since returning from an injury himself. He's 3-0 with an ERA of 1.13, a WHIP of .88. He's averaging 6 strikeouts for every 9 innings pitched, 16 strikeouts against just 5 walks. You've got Javier Assad, who is very quietly being one of the best pitchers in baseball. 7 starts, 2 quality starts, 3-0 with an ERA of 1.66, a WHIP of 1.03. And for those that aren't familiar, WHIP, that's walks and hits per innings pitched. So you're giving up basically 1 base runner an inning. Ks per 9 of 7.3, 31 strikeouts against just 12 walks. Some outstanding stuff from Assad. And then, of course, the huge one, the officially a rookie coming over from Japan, Shota Imanaga, in 6 starts, 4 of them quality starts, 5-0, 34 2/3 innings pitched, an ERA of .78, a Ks per 9 of 9.1, 35 strikeouts against just 4 walks to this point in the season. Outstanding numbers for the Cubs starting staff. So if Justin Steele is able to be his regular self, that is an embarrassment of riches for the Cubs in their starting rotation. That's what allows them to get through the fact that Steele has missed effectively the entire first month of the season, that Cody Bellinger has been down for a while, though I did hear in the pregame tonight he might make a return yet in this homestand, which I would assume I would take that to mean you're looking at Wednesday afternoon. Bellinger might be making an appearance in this series against the Padres. I would say Wednesday afternoon because then the Cubs finally have an off day on Thursday, so you'd be able to play Bellinger and then know you'd immediately get him a day off. And Seiya Suzuki being out, though he's been spending some time taking live batting practice the last few days at Wrigley. He ran the bases yesterday. So some great things happening for the Cubs, primarily because their starting rotation has just been so strong, so good overall from the starters. Now you got to look at, though, the bullpen. The bullpen problems are very much there for the Cubs. Adbert Alzolay has struggled to this point in the season. He is not doing well at all. Pull up his numbers here specifically for Alzolay. 14 appearances. He's got a win, but 4 losses and just 3 saves. He's given up 5 home runs already on the season. That is troublesome from the guy that you thought was going to be your closer. Hector Neris has come in and done okay trying to be the closer in his place. He's only given up 1 home run, but he's got 12 walks. the Cubs bullpen needs some help. You know, it was amazing this past weekend. The Cubs hosted the Brewers, took 2 out of 3 from them, which was great, a fantastic series. The starters in 18 1/3 innings, the starters gave up 0 runs, earned or otherwise. The bullpen gave up 8 in, as I'm trying to do math off the top of my head, that's always a dangerous prospect. In 8 2/3 innings, the bullpen gave up 8 runs. That is troublesome. So what do you do? And Larry's having some fun in the chat room. The Cubs are the exact opposite of the White Sox. On the White Sox, you've got the cashier at the local liquor store, the city bus driver, Al Bundy, the art professor at Northwestern, and the janitor from so-and-so high school down the street as their starting rotation. Yeah, and the Sox are while the Cubs are celebrating the return of Justin Steele to their starting rotation tonight, the White Sox are celebrating the return of Mike Clevenger for some god-awful reason to the starting rotation. And all he did was then turn around and give up 3 earned runs and 6 hits and 4 walks in 2 innings before getting yanked. God, the White Sox are a whole other thing. We'll get into them a little bit more later. I will say it was a terrific weekend for all baseball in Chicago because you had the Cubs taking 2 out of 3 from the Brewers, and the Sox did the Cubs a huge solid by taking 2 out of 3 from the St. Louis Cardinals. So the Sox get to celebrate their second series victory of the season, and the Cubs get to watch as the Cardinals drop a series to the worst team in baseball in St. Louis, no less. So the Brewers and the Cardinals lost while the Cubs are winning it. That doesn't get any better than that. That is as good of a weekend as you're going to have in Wrigley. That is phenomenal. Phenomenal stuff there. So, but what do you do if you're the Cubs at this point? The bullpen obviously needs help. Larry, yeah, that's the second series that the Sox have won. Yeah, not quite their second victory. They do have 8 on the season, but yeah, it feels like it was their second win overall. Just miserable stuff from the White Sox. But for the Cubs, obviously the bullpen is the hole. So how do you fix it? It's easy enough right now to say, well, just go trade for somebody. You know, just go buy some arms. The problem is it's only May 6th, and you don't have that many teams interested in trading right now. Primarily because you'd have plenty of teams that are interested in looking at upgrading, probably, that would be willing to have a conversation about, hey, yeah, we could maybe see about adding some major league talent. But because it's only May 6th, you don't have that many teams that want to talk about potentially selling, that want to potentially throw the towel in on the season already. And you're basically, if you're going to look at doing a trade right now, you're basically resigning yourself to the White Sox, the Marlins, which they did already make a trade last week. So maybe they're willing to talk business a little bit, as the Marlins are 10-26. So we'll have to ask JB's opinion of that on Thursday night over at Magic City Scoreboard. I'll have to be sure to pop in there and ask him his thoughts about the Marlins maybe sending some bullpen guys over the Cubs' way. See what he thinks about that. The Rockies, possibly. I mean, the Rockies are also just absolutely abysmal right now. They're tied with the White Sox for worst record in baseball at 8-26. I brought this up last night on Mile High Musings with Aaron. Last night, I asked him if the Rockies would be willing to make a deal right now, and he said basically, sure, you can have anybody out of the Rockies bullpen, but beware, they all are terrible. So So that's part of the trouble right now for the Cubs, would be finding not just a team that would be willing to do business with you right now, but also a team willing to do business with you with some guys that you might be willing to acquire also. I mean, as I take a quick peek here over at the Marlins, the Marlins pitching real quick, and just try to get a feel here. You know, perhaps, you know, maybe somebody like a Brian Honing, that, you know, maybe if that's somebody they'd be willing to part with. I think they may have just acquired him though, and he's on the 15-day IL. They may have just gotten him. You know, there's not a whole lot of, you know, maybe Birch Smith. That's a veteran guy for sure, but I'm not sure what they'd be willing to give up at this point, and what you'd be willing to take from them too. You know, you do want to get something that's going to help you back. I did hear it brought up, well, what about Michael Kopech to the Cubs? And I like the idea of Michael Kopech, but he's been so scattered with his play. I don't know how much, you know, you're looking for stability if you're the Cubs. I don't know how much that's going to actually, I'm not sure how much that's going to actually help you. You know, you're wanting as much stability as you can get there from that. So we'll have to see what they can do. But certainly the Cubs willing to be buyers, certainly at this point. It also would be interesting to see, you know, it might just be as simple as when Kyle Hendricks returns from his IL stint, that he becomes the fifth man in the rotation. And then you're able to get guys like Hayden Wisniewski into the bullpen to try and help give some relief there. So we'll see what the Cubs are able to do. But so far, a terrific start for the Cubs as they find themselves after this weekend tied for first with in a virtual tie with the Milwaukee Brewers for first place in the National League Central. It's going to be interesting to see what comes of it. I do think that Shota Imanaga's numbers are going to go up. I don't know that he's going to be able to maintain a sub-1 ERA as the weather gets warmer and we start getting into the summer months and Wrigley becomes a hitter's haven. But and I don't know if Javier Assad's going to be able to necessarily maintain a sub-2 ERA, but hopefully also, you know, some guys like Michael Busch's bat will warm back up as he's in a bit of a slump after hitting 5 homers in 5 days in April. Hopefully he can warm up. Pete Crow Armstrong has made a solid case for staying up at the big leagues even after Cody Bellinger comes back, the way he's been playing and the way he's been using his bat effectively. We'll see what that comes with. So some good times ahead on the north side. Been a lot of fun to watch and keep track of. We are going to take ourselves a quick little break. And then on the flip side, we've done, of course, a ton of draft talk about the NFL the last month plus with the Bears. Even snuck in a little bit of WNBA draft talk a couple weeks ago as that was happening live during the show. We have another draft coming up a few months down the road, but we're going to learn some very significant information. The NHL Draft Lottery is tomorrow night, and the Blackhawks have a very strong possibility of possibly getting the number 1 overall pick for the second year in a row. We will discuss that and then some possible guys that might be playing at the Madhouse here in the near future. This is Chi-Town Weekly, part of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We will be right back after this.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, New York? This is Ricky K coming at you with the NY State of Sports, a new show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Listen to me every Thursday afternoon as we bring you the latest takes on the Yankees, Mets, Jets, Giants, Knicks, Nets, Rangers, Devils, and Islanders. Plus, you get some college hoops and what's the local sports events going on in the area. It's a state that never sleeps, so why not get the opinions and sports takes that never sleep? Again, every Thursday, 2 p.m. to the NY State of Sports. We'll see you then.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
IE Sports Radio fans, it's your boy, the SoCal Saint, the host of the premier professional wrestling podcast online today, the IE Elite Wrestling Show. If you're a fan and have a passion for the world of professional wrestling, this is the show for you. I take you inside the ropes with all the athleticism, high-flying, and hard-hitting action, and then we take it backstage with all the backstage drama and backstabbing that goes on in the world of professional wrestling today. If something's going on in the world of professional wrestling, rest assured, the SoCal Saint knows what's going on. He's going to let you know too. If you're a fan, check us out every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on IE Sports Radio. The IE Elite Wrestling Show, your direct feed for all that is professional wrestling, on the only network that is your direct feed for all that is sports. Check us out.
Hey yo, what's up? It's your man Bishop, the voice of This Is KC Sports, the show where we go over the Chiefs, the Royals, KC Current, Sporting KC, MU, and oh yeah, if we got time, we'll even throw in some of that KU stuff from our people on the 913 side. Come hang out with us every Sunday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Kernick with you here for about another, 26 minutes or so of the show here tonight. Talked a lot of Cubs in the opening. Now we're going to get into one of my personal favorite sports. You may have heard the drop in there for the Neutral Zone. I do that with my good friend Zach every Tuesday night over on the IE Sports Radio YouTube channel. We do then cross-post and put everything over here on the Spreaker channel when we're done with that. We're going to be diving into this a little bit tomorrow night. The playoffs are in full swing in the NHL. The round one officially got wrapped up last night with the Stars and the Golden Knights playing Game 7 of their series. The Stars advancing, the defending champions getting eliminated in the first round. We also had the start of round 2 yesterday. Actually, round 2 technically started before round 1 ended. That was a strange, unique little circumstance that we'll get into a little bit tomorrow night. So the short version is it had to deal with stadium availability situations. We'll get into that a little bit, but I wanted to get into it a little bit on a local level. I didn't talk a lot of Blackhawks this season, just primarily because the Hawks were just not very good. Just on the whole, the Blackhawks were very young and a lot of growing pains. You had great stuff, of course, from Connor Bedard. He should waltz home with the Rookie of the Year trophy with the Calder. There should be no doubt about that. You did have some great stuff also from Kevin Korchinski, another 18-year-old phenomenal prospect for the Hawks that spent a lot of time with the big club this year, looked the part, played well. So there are some signs of life going forward, but overall this season we knew what it was going to be. It was going to be a growing year, and it wasn't going to be a terribly competitive year. You know, a lot of when Bedard wasn't on the ice, the Hawks really struggled to score. And when you struggle to score, you're not going to win very many games. Larry throwing in the chat room here, wondering why they took the enforcer out of hockey. I'd honestly, and I know you being a linebacker, that was your favorite position, was that fourth line enforcer. Honestly, the biggest reason the enforcer pretty much isn't in the game anymore is because there are just too many skilled players. Part of the reason the enforcer became a thing was because you had guys who were really big and weren't necessarily the fastest guys on the ice, didn't have necessarily the hardest shot or the greatest passes, but man, could they just smack somebody and lay them out. Well, anymore, the overall athletic ability of hockey players has just grown so exponentially in the last 15, 20 years that your enforcers almost became a liability out there on the ice, that they couldn't effectively do their job because the skill guys would just get around them, that they couldn't effectively smack people and lay people out. Also, you've had a lot of NHL teams have taken away the emphasis of the hitting and the fighting. It has become a slightly less physical game. Now, I don't mean that. I mean, when I say less physical, at least for me, and I imagine for a lot of people, what comes to mind is the NFL, how seemingly any tackle has basically become illegal in the NFL, that basically you're only allowed to hug them and then very gently lay them down. And if it's Tom Brady, basically you have to just, blow a kiss at them and say, please just lay down on the ground for me so that I can touch you. Otherwise I'll get in trouble. Or if you were Justin Fields, then basically you could be decapitated and it was legal. I'm not at all bitter about that. Not at all. But anyway, in the NHL, you have had, because players have gotten so much faster and so much better skilled, teams have said, hey, we really can't emphasize the physicality of the game anymore, because if you try to line somebody up to blast them, they'll just skate around you, and now you look really silly, and oh, look, it's a 3-on-2 the other way, and they just buried it in the back of our net because you were too busy trying to line them up instead of actually defending. So, yeah, we have lost the enforcer a little bit, but there's still physicality in the game. I mean, there was a doozy of a hit late in Game 7 last night between the Stars and the Knights. I don't remember the players involved, but it was Vegas. Vegas had pulled the goalie. Vegas was trying desperately to get the equalizer, and right in neutral ice, I mean, there was a Stars forward who realized he was going to be coming off for a change, and the fastest way to get to his bench was through the Golden Knight. And so, yeah, he dumped the puck in and then, just kind of lowered his shoulder on a guy, and boom! It was a hit. It was a beautiful hit. So, yeah, you'll have people that will complain that it's not as physical as it used to be, and you'll find people like that, Larry. If you want to go looking for them, you'll find people who will complain about the lack of physicality in hockey, but it is a trade-off for it is coming naturally out of the game as teams have learned to operate the ice better and move around in the ice better. So, yeah, it's not just simply, hey, we're trying to I mean, there is player safety involved in it, but it's not all just, in the name of player safety. It is coming organically. So to gear this back towards the Blackhawks now, as we do, boy, this is kind of like an episode of Neutral Zone where we have a lot of, if you haven't checked out an episode of Neutral Zone, I would highly, and you're at all a hockey guy, I would highly encourage you, check us out Tuesday nights, 8:00 Central over on the IE Sports Radio YouTube channel. We joke on the show that we talk about hockey, but we're also, we stay on the rails mostly. That we're not afraid to venture off into all kinds of territory. Taryn actually used to do a great job of keeping score for us, and all the times we'd bring up other sports other than hockey. I think our record is still somewhere around 6 or 7. We'll have to, when we get done with the playoffs, we'll have to see about breaking that record, I think. Organically, of course, Larry. All organically. We're a very organic show. Anyway. But getting back to the Blackhawks for a moment, the Blackhawks, of course, we knew they weren't going to be making the playoffs. We knew that wasn't going to be in the cards for them, that just wasn't going to be this season for them. And in fact, the Hawks finished in the second lowest spot in the overall standings. And Taryn reminded me, yes, and we try very hard not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode, though that is harder to do now that the Arizona Coyotes don't exist. Gary Bettman, damn it. Anyway, we did go on a rant on that one week. And now the Utah Coyotes or whatever the hell they're going to be. Anyway, Blackhawks. I promise I'm going to get through this segment. The Blackhawks finished second from the bottom in the overall standings in the NHL. Now, in the NHL, they do a draft lottery. Very much like MLB is now doing, like the NBA now does. Basically how all the other sports leagues, except for the NFL and the WNBA, will now, in an effort to try and stall tanking, the NHL does a draft lottery. The way the lottery works, for the Blackhawks' purposes, they have the second best chances of getting the number one overall pick. This would be the second year in a row of the Hawks getting the number one overall pick, if they were to land it, which would be just phenomenal for the franchise. We saw what landing Connor Bedard did last year and how it just jump-started the entire organization, gave them such a huge facelift. Well, the Hawks have the second best odds this year, which is actually better than a year ago when they did get it. To give some background, any team that doesn't qualify for the playoffs in the NHL is in the lottery, but not all of them can win the number one overall pick. You can only move up 10 spots from where you naturally are. So, for example, let's just use Detroit because, we're Chicago. We don't like the Red Wings. We don't like them over there in Detroit any one bit. The Red Wings just missed the playoffs. They were the first team out in the Eastern Conference. They had the same standings points as the Washington Capitals. They actually had more wins than Washington overall, but Washington clinched the tiebreaker over Detroit. So the Capitals got in. The Red Wings were on the outside looking in. If the Red Wings were to see their name called tomorrow night, they can't jump all the way up to 1. They're at 16. They can only jump up to 6. They can only move up 10 spots. So the Blackhawks are pretty safe. They're going to be getting a high pick. They are right now they're at 2. They could get up to 1. The worst case scenario is they fall back to 4. So they're going to have a top 4 pick in the draft when the draft is held, which that's in June in the NHL. We'll do a little bit more specifically on some guys. As first of all, we know the pick, but also have a little bit of idea of really who the absolute cream of the crop is in the class. We do know who the top overall guy is in this class. The consensus number one prospect who's absolutely expected to go 1 overall, Macklin Celebrini out of Boston University. He won the Hobey Baker Award, which is the collegiate hockey equivalent of the Heisman. The freshman had 32 goals and 32 assists. He was just 17 years old doing this too. 64 points for Celebrini. Boston was an early exit too in the NCAA final Frozen Four tournament. They got knocked out in the semifinals. He was not expected. He fully expected to make it into the championship. And so when he was asked, "Hey, are you going to go back to college? Are you going to stay put?" He said, "I was still expecting to play hockey a couple nights from now, so I genuinely don't know. So Celebrini, he's a forward. To pair him with Connor Bedard, you would be setting the Hawks up for an outstanding run. I mean, it would not be inappropriate to invoke the names of Kane and Taves when trying to talk about what a Bedard and Celebrini pairing would do. The two of them know each other a little bit. Bedard said he's talked with Celebrini, trying to help him prepare for the draft. He's played with him a little bit. They know each other a little bit. So to see that pairing would be incredible. There's a couple other guys that we'll talk about as I'm seeing the time here. We'll get into them more as we get a little bit closer to the draft. But the Blackhawks have a great opportunity here tomorrow night. We will know. Tune in to Neutral Zone tomorrow night. We'll be breaking it all down as the draft lottery unfolds. Last year, I was able to react to it in real time because in the middle of the show, we found out that the Blackhawks got the number 1 overall pick. It won't quite work out that way tomorrow, but we'll know the order. And so Zach and I are going to break that down a little bit and talk about what we might expect to see happen. There's 2 picks for the lottery. They draw one name for ostensibly for the number 1 pick, and then they draw the second team for what would be the number 2 pick, and then everything else just they reorder from there. But again, if you're somebody that was, say, 12, 13, 14, 15, or 16, you can't win the number 1. You can't jump all the way up to number 1. And if you were 13 through 16, you can't even move up to number 2. So it's entirely possible that the Blackhawks will still wind up with a top 2 pick after the lottery happens tomorrow night. We're going to take one more quick break, and then, of course, we can't get out of here without talking some Bears, right? The NFL is releasing its schedule on Thursday to way too much hoopla, way too much fanfare, way too much celebration. We will have some fun and way over the top to go along with it here on our end, too. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after this quick break.
What's up, sports fans? You're listening to IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your favorite West Coast Wisconsinite, Bernie Bango, and if you're a cheesehead, come listen to my show, Big Cheese Sports, where we road trip around America's Dairyland, previewing, reviewing, predicting, debating, and digging into all that is Wisconsin sports at the college and pro levels. Join me on IE Sports Radio, Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Standard. Bernie out.
Everybody, this is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And in fact, he'll be coming up as soon as we are done here on IE Sports Radio. Taryn Rodriguez, he had himself a busy weekend. He was covering the NCAA Men's National Championship for IE Sports Radio. So he will have lots to talk about, I'm sure, from that. Unfortunately, Loyola did not make it, but that's okay. They're going to be set up for the future. They're going to make it there. One of these times, they are going to make it. So be sure to stick around after us. Taryn Rodriguez breaking down everything in the world of volleyball. Lots to go through from the NCAA National Championships this past weekend. Adam Karnick here with you for just a few more minutes. So the NFL we've gotten through all the hoopla of the draft. We have gotten through the primary free agency. We've gotten through the draft. We've gotten through a lot of the reaction. The next big item in the NFL offseason is the schedule release. Now, I'm going to be a gigantic nerd here for a moment and point out and remind people that we already knew a ton of all this information the second the regular season ended. We've known the opponents. Heck, we know 14 of next year's opponents already. They follow a set schedule for the schedule every year. They do a rotation. We know so much of it ahead of time. So there's not really all that much new information that they're going to be telling us. All we're simply learning on Thursday is the order of the games. It's really not anything that needs to be broken ahead of time or scooped or really ravenously dissected. But it is the NFL. It's what we do. We're all hooked. We're all addicted. We all know it. And the sooner we just admit it, then we can go about maybe fixing it. Or maybe just, admitting our craziness and just living in it as fully as possible. Whatever floats your boat. We're here for it all. So in this vein, I always like to make some silly predictions when we get to this point with the NFL schedule. I'm not going to try to predict how many wins the Bears are going to have in May. That is absolutely stupid. It is pointless. You may as well just flip a coin after every game. The NFL is 18-week-long seasons, more than any other sport. And to try to predict in May how tough a game is going to be in November or December is foolhardy and foolish. Don't listen to anybody that tries to tell you otherwise. So I'm not going to do that. But what we are going to do then for predicting, let's try to guess some things that are going to happen on Thursday, shall we? So to set the stage a little bit, of course, so we know who all of the opponents are going to be for the Bears. And we'll go ahead and remind everybody. The home opponents, of course, Lions, Packers, Vikings. They're also going to host the Rams, Jaguars, Titans, Seahawks, Patriots, and Panthers. They get that extra home game this year. The road opponents, of course, Lions, Packers, Vikings. They also are traveling to Arizona, to Houston, to Indianapolis. That's a short trip if you're looking for a nice little getaway for a road trip. San Francisco and Washington, D.C. So with that in mind, let's have some fun predicting here, shall we? You are limited. The NFL restricts all the teams to no more than 6 nationally televised games every year. That's meaning Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night. Last year, the Bears had 4. This year, I think the Bears are going to have 5 nationally televised games after the draft, the season that they had overall last year, 7-10, and then the offseason free agent moves and the draft with the acquisitions of Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze. I'm still over the moon about getting Rome Odunze, by the way. That might become my new jersey this year. It is an Odunze 15. I think they're going to wind up with 5. And I think what we're looking at for those 5, I think some prime candidates at Washington against the Commanders. I see that being an early season. I'm talking weeks 1 through 4. I see that being a prime candidate for a nationally spotlit game, either Thursday Night Football again for the 3rd year in a row, or looking at a Monday night game. And that game is just so easy to schedule. It sells itself. The number 1 overall pick in Caleb Williams against the number 2 overall pick in Jaden Daniels. That just sells itself from a marketing standpoint. So I could see that one being nationally televised early on. I also think that Bears-Packers is bound for a nationally televised game, specifically Bears at Packers, because God knows NBC won't come to Chicago. Don't know why, but specifically Bears at Packers, I think that's bound for a primetime game, probably a Sunday night game this year at some point. Not sure what the other 3 would be, but I think we're looking at 5 primetime games there. I also think Bears at Lions, that's a Thanksgiving Day game to me. I think that's what we're looking at this year. Bears at Lions. They like doing that, putting the Bears on Thanksgiving against Detroit. And with Detroit being, the reigning defending champs and expectations raised for the Bears, that could be, and that's right when things start getting serious in the schedule, that could be a playoff positioning kind of a game going on there. So I see that definitely being a possibility for the season. So I'm going to go ahead and predict Bears at Lions will be on Thanksgiving this year. The Bears also have an international game this year. Now it's got to be one of the home games. So it's got to be one of those 9 home games this year. I am predicting that we'll see that one will be the Patriots. I think Patriots at Bears winds up getting played over in London sometime in October. They won't send a divisional game there. I don't think they're going to send the Rams or the Seahawks over there. The Jaguars already play 2 international games in London, so I don't think they'll make the Jaguars do a third. Carolina is also scheduled to play internationally this season, so I don't think they'll make the Panthers do that twice. That only leaves you with the Titans or the Patriots. I think the Patriots is the more alluring draw there for the NFL, so I'm going to predict Bears-Patriots in London sometime in October. And, of course, the season finale, it's apparently just the tried and true tradition. So I'm going to say Bears at Vikings to close out the season. I'm sure that absolutely none of those things could possibly go wrong. Frankly, I'll be stunned if I got any of it right. But that's the fun of having some silly predictions like this, is that we get to have some fun, we get to do some zaniness. Whatever it takes, I will not get bent out of shape in however the schedule aligns itself in May. Come November, that might be a different story. The schedule might look a hell of a lot harder in November than it will in May. It might also look easier. You do not know. Once again, a shout out and thank you to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. Visit them at planetjerky.net. Follow them at Instagram. Try the volcanic jalapeno. If you like anything with a little bit of kick to it, but still having flavor and still being able to feel your face when you're done, I love the volcanic jalapeno. And also, of course, Seal the Deal Wax Seals. Visit them on Instagram at @SealTheDeal_wax stamps or Facebook Seal the Deal Wax Seals. Thank you to Larry B. All the hard work you do behind the scenes, sir, running the station. It does not go unnoticed or unappreciated. Thank you to everybody in the chat room tonight. Jen B., Wes Trueblood, Larry B., Taryn Rodriguez, Mike Pat. I believe I got everybody. Yes, thank you all for hanging out in the chat room with me tonight. I really appreciate it. Finally, thank you for listening. Whether this was your first show, this was your 50th show, this was your 181st show. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Tell your friends. Let people know that you listen. Send them the link. All of their whatever way they get their podcasts, I promise you we are here on it. We are here for you. Until next week, I am Adam Karnick for IE Sports Radio. It's our 10-year anniversary next week. We're going to have a ton of fun celebrating that. We will see you next time.